All right. Let me know if there's a delay, guys. We are back again, myself and Miss Emma Lyons, and I'm really excited because we have been having great conversations. If you're in the WIN community, you know their conversations are always geared towards helping you and your business grow. Impactful workshops, conversations, and just advice and tips, and also portals to us and portals to our services and things that you normally wouldn't get access to with certain discounts. I want to just, and looks, Emma, looks like you're frozen. Are you frozen? That's so weird. She looked like she's frozen. We were just talking about how it was like really probably a little glitchy. I'll give Emma a little time to get back on. But we are live, so I'm going to keep talking and just give her some time to either adjust the screen or come back on and say something. Emma, let me know when you're back up. But I just want to, bring to the forefront some of the things that we were just starting to talk about, where we said in this new year, in this new environment, just talking about changes and cycles and, how we're starting off fresh. We wanted to kind of bring that to the forefront in this conversation of you're not broke, you're just blocked. Some of the things that I think is really important in saying these things to you all and just really teaching you about this opportunity to change your mindset around what it is that is happening in your own personal lives. I've been a person to go from a shift of having $0 in my bank account to having $20,000 in my bank account the next day. I've done the same thing with $75,000 in my bank account the next day. So, it's not really about, what you have. It's about what you're willing to do to create opportunity for yourself. How mindful you are about your own growth, about your own prosperity, about yourself. I just did a room on Clubhouse where we were talking about how to build meaningful relationships. And in that room, I was just going in on like, how are you really intentionally looking at yourself first and who you are as a person, and then building off of that so you can meet the right people to help you fulfill those goals that you have for yourself in your life. So we're going to be really leaning into some of that too here, because in order for you to break some of these mindsets, which, being broke is a mindset. I just got to emphasize that, because I've seen lots of people that I've seen with lots and lots and lots of money, but they're still like broke. You know what I'm saying? Like they're still broken away. But it's technically not broke. And that's why we're talking about it being a way where you don't look at it as being broke, but you look at it as being blocked. So you can really remove some of those things that are sitting in your way of understanding what to do. And we're going to talk about those things like breaking cycles that you have that are very common to you that you may not have known you have, but then, maybe someone brought it to your attention one day, or, maybe you got help with someone like Miss Emma Lyons. And she said, do you notice that you do these things? I myself have had experience with that. And I've also taught other people about breaking their cycles. So this is a common thing that a lot of people go through, because if you're not aware, then you don't know, what's happening and how to break it. But before we start the conversation and get in depth with that, because that's going to include so many other things, y'all. We are starting a new year with new attitudes, and we want to make sure you have the right mindset to really create that momentum for you. So Emma, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll start the conversation after.
Well, hi everyone. Great to be back here. Happy New Year. And I'm really so my name is Emma Lyons. Allegra's kind of done a little bit of an introduction, but I work with female entrepreneurs, purpose-driven women, and I help them to break through their own blocks around receiving and making the money that they want and really thriving, doing their purpose and living on purpose. And I've noticed that really that is the only thing that stops people. It stopped me for an awful long time, and now I know all the kind of shortcuts and ways to really deal with the root cause of all these things so that you can, put into action all the strategies that Allegra can give you and really get the results out of it so that you can thrive and have even more to share with the world. So, really excited to be sharing this. It's a really important time now at the start of 2024 because we can kind of turn the page and start from a totally new slate with our in our relationship with ourselves and also with money. And this is an important thing. Money is important. It's not more or less important than any other areas of life. It's important. And when we acknowledge that and open ourselves up to receiving, then, we can the things just start to happen. You meet the right people, the synchronicities start to happen, and you can really start to change the way you operate with money and within your business. So it becomes less of a kind of struggle and more of a kind of flow and receiving and ease. So that's what we're all about getting into now in 2024.
I love that. I mean, you really bring light to the relationship between how, we see money, because it's just a construct. It's something that we use as a value exchange, right? We talk about this in business because here's one thing that someone was telling me, and I thought it was so weird to hear it now in 2024. And they were like, yeah, we're really uncomfortable talking about money. And I was like, why? We have to. Like, there's no choice. You got to talk about money when you talk about your bills, when you talk about, teaching your children. If you're not talking about money to your children, that's really important, right? So being able to have a way of just kind of valuing, because that's what money is. It's just a value, right? So it's like a reflection of how we value ourselves, and that's why Emma goes even beyond the money blocks part. People just like to talk about money. And so we say money blocks, but essentially this is a block to what Emma says is receiving, to what she does. So when I was first talking, Emma, what I was saying to you was that initially I wanted to really celebrate, right? Celebrate the new year and the new success of like thinking what is to come, and how I showed you my new year goals and how I had that at the forefront of my mind, right? Everywhere that I go, I have my phone with me. So of course, my vision board, shout out to Tamisha, who put together the Empower Her Vision Networking event. That was powerful. And I don't have my mustard seed anymore, but I do have the vision board and the list. And I put it on my phone, I put it on my computer, and I thought, how proud am I to really have this in focus, in view, right? At all times, to really like think about what it is that I need to do. But I also wanted to talk about, even outside of having a process, right? Because we all should have one. We all should be focused on how am I going to stay motivated, how I'm going to stay focused. Outside of having powerful women around me, y'all, that say, hey, Allegra, didn't you say you're going to make $1 million? Right? Of course, that keeps you accountable. But outside of that, you have, other areas where I feel like for us, we got to be mindful that there's root causes to our issues. So just because a new year hits doesn't necessarily mean that we break our cycles. And I wanted to celebrate the momentum of anyone who started the new year like I did. Like, I have my vision board intact. I did what I need to do. I connected with the right people. I'm starting on the right foot. But see, that momentum, I think sometimes we forget that, and on the back end, there's some challenges always waiting for us. And every single challenge is waiting for us. We want to kind of have our head on straight, and knowing enough about ourselves to know that we all have cycles. There's no one of us that does not have a cycle. This is what I learned, Emma. This is what I learned. I learned that we all have cycles. You either have a good cycle, a bad cycle. So for some of us, we have really bad cycles that we do throughout the year. And I was explaining to Emma how I had someone who I was talking to, and she was talking about how she broke her cycle, right? And I remember like actually laying it out on a calendar. And I did this to myself at one point in time. I said, how many times do I get frustrated throughout the month, throughout the year, right? And I actually wrote on a calendar like when I got frustrated and what was happening on these days. And what I found, y'all, this was so interesting, was that there will always be a cycle of something that will happen. And it will be always around like when bills were due, or around the time where, for the women out there, your cycle's about to come on, right? So there's just like certain things that would happen in my cycle of actions, activities, and how I would react to things. And so it was so interesting because after I, looked at that and I actually saw other people going through that, I said, how many times are we actually looking at this, especially going into the new year, right? We have our visions, we have our momentum, we joined the fitness clubs, we, joined the new memberships, we joined the new programs, right? And we're methodical about looking at our visions every single day, which I do. But then I thought about, what cycles do I have that I carry in with me in 2024, or did I break them? And did I even know enough to know that I had a cycle that I needed to break? And so I want to stop there because I want to hear from y'all too. Like, if you're like listening and you're like, well, I don't have no cycles. We all have cycles. We have good cycles, we have bad cycles. But I would love to hear any comments in the chat as to, if you walked into the new year with this mindset, to how you're going to be very careful about monitoring your activities and seeing like where you are breaking some of these bad cycles, bad habits, and if you're honoring the good cycles, the things that you picked up and you did start doing well. And I'll elaborate more on that as we go. But Emma, I want to pass it over to you to see what you have to say about that.
Well, yeah, I absolutely love what you shared about the cycles because an awful lot of us might be stuck in more negative cycles. And it's like a spiral. When we think about making progress or making money, we kind of think it's going to be like this, a straight line up. And it's actually more like a spiral. And we're spiraling upwards or we're spiraling downwards if we're stuck in that negative momentum, and maybe we have a lot of negative thinking and disappointment and fear and shame going on around our money and around other areas of the life, because the way you do your money, like I keep saying here, it's going to be reflected in other places. So it's really important that, like you said, Allegra, that we shift the negative cycles to something that's going to be more positive and productive for us so that we can create something different in 2024. Otherwise, obviously, if we keep doing what we've always been doing, we're going to keep getting those same old results. So it's so important that you not only get a new kind of vision, but that you also operate on the software that's working inside you so that you can shift from that pattern that isn't serving you anymore. Maybe it served you in the past, and start walking a different path and spiraling upwards with regards to your relationship with money and your clients and everything in your life as well. So, this is such an important thing for 2023. It's like you're changing the record, you're changing what's been spinning around and around in your world and in your mind and in your heart for 2023, or indeed for all your life or all your adulthood, because very often these patterns, they haven't played out one time, they've played out again and again. I'm just thinking about my own stuff. And, for a long time, I've talked about this before here, I was really stuck in this working really hard pattern, being disappointed, feeling ashamed of myself, and then it would be back, it would replay again and again. And I'd try different strategies, try this and try that, and spend a ton of money. I was throwing all this money at the problem. But until I changed the software, but what was inside me creating those patterns and those emotional patterns to create and recreate themselves, none of that outside stuff would really shift and work. So it's so possible to change that. But it's not just about the strategy, it's about working on your own inner stuff and releasing the root causes and the root fears and the root shames that may be causing those situations to reoccur again and again in different areas of your life. So I think it's really important to talk about this now as we step into a new year, because we all start off with these great intentions. We're going to work out every day. Lots of people, they set themselves up for really, really high, lofty goals. And then by the end of January, it's kind of all thrown to the wayside. So it can sometimes be better to work with small, manageable, actionable steps and start noticing the results and work step by step rather than, going, I'm a millionaire. Because if you start coming and yourself with those kind of affirmations, sometimes every time you say I'm a millionaire, your inner voice says, no, you're not, you're broke. And that's actually what you could be reaffirming again and again rather than the positive. So I think it's really smart and important to take the little steps and acknowledge those little steps rather than trying to take a massive, it's not wrong, it can happen, but it's important to recognize where you are and to take the next step from there rather than trying to do something that maybe you internally don't feel is possible and that you internally are going to be resisting on some level.
You said something so powerful is when you said it's how you feel. Okay, let's
Mhm.
just go back to that because I could say I'm a millionaire. You could say you're a millionaire. Somebody else could say, and we can all feel differently about that same thing. And I think it just goes with your belief system, right? What do you believe? Do you believe that you actually have it in you to make $1 million? Like some people, I don't know, I've seen it in different situations, but some people have $1 million idea and they know they do. So it's easy for them to be like, okay, I'm a millionaire because I have $1 million idea and I know all I have to do is find the right person to just put that money in my pocket, right?
Yeah.
They believe in they believe in themselves, they believe in the idea, they understand how valuable it is. This conversation about money though, I just want to like trigger that because we all kind of came out, and then we're going to go over to what Emma said earlier, y'all, which is burnout. And we talked about this a little bit last year, but then coming off of Christmas and then the holiday season, listen, I told my family a long time ago, I am not the person that you come to around the holidays when you get old enough to just like jump over their house and they're going to cook dinner for you and do all this. I'm not that person. I'm going to, book the trip. I'm going to make the reservation. Like that's really the type of person I am. And so I've seen, and the reason why I do that is because I've seen cycles of people get burnt out in the holiday, right? Especially with my parents, not really my dad, more my mom, right? And we're talking about women. Like, if we really want to talk about women, y'all, shout out to Women into Networking. We want to talk about women who really have it all, who do it all at home, in your business, right? You cannot be stretched thin. And so I just find ways to be more productive, right? If I can get a space where people can do the work for me, I can delegate it, right? I can, I don't have to do so much. So I've just learned through that process. And I've seen a lot of women in my past, and that created a cycle for me, y'all. It's in certain situations, not in everything, where I would mimic that, like, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta have all this around the holiday, I gotta do this for my kids, and I gotta do that for this. And so it really it's something that I see a lot when it comes down to our cycles, because we're not really paying attention to what we just want. We're like what everybody else wants,
Yeah.
and then we kind of assume that some of the things that we're doing is what we want, but it's really built out of habit and cycles of over the years of seeing it from our parents, right, and just mimicking that. So I've noticed
Yes.
that you're like, yeah, what are you gonna say, Emma?
Well, I totally agree with that, and also I wanna say one more thing about this. There are people out there who are motivated by money, but also a lot of people aren't particularly motivated by money. It's not that motivating to make $1 million. Like, what does that mean? Maybe your brain can't even conceive of it, but it's what you can do with the money.
Mhm.
So until you tap into that and actually emotionally feel into that, you're not going to be excited to create $1 million, because it doesn't mean anything to you. It's just an abstract idea that doesn't get you excited because it doesn't mean anything is going to change in your life. So that's why it can be better to really focus on what you're gonna do with that money, how you're going to invest that money into yourself, into your business. What kind of person are you when you're making that money? And it doesn't have to be a millionaire. And I recommend for some people, especially if you're working on, building up your self-esteem, you can start with your next step. If you haven't made 10K a month, then or 5K, start with that. Make that your next step and focus there and focus on how that would feel, because you're going to be able to tap into that more easily than you're going to be able to conceive what it feels like to make $1 million. That's possible for everyone. I'm not saying it's not possible, but take the next step. That can be really powerful, and then you're noticing your progress with every single step you take forward. And notice what motivates you. What is it that motivates you? Maybe it's not money. Maybe you want to help people with that money. Maybe you want to take your kids to Disneyland, or, look after yourself more, or get weekly massages. Focus on those things rather than having the money in your bank account, because maybe that doesn't do it for you.
Man, I'm glad you mentioned that because it's so true. You have different perspectives on this, thing because some people want to have a lot of it. And I said that too before, Emma. I said, what's the point of having a lot of money if you don't know what to do with it? Like, that's not motivating at all. Like, I want $1 million.
No.
Okay, so what for? Like, it's not motivating to just want it. And that's when you know that someone has, big dreams, high hopes, but they really don't have a purpose behind it. And I want us to really understand what that looks like for us, because that's part of our love for ourselves too. I think that's part of receiving, right? Because when we love ourselves enough, we're like, okay, I want to make smart, informed decisions for what I want to do and how I want to do it. And just from the previous live we just did here in the group on Facebook, I featured Avianca Manning, and she's been a friend of mine for years. And when I say that, I have watched her grow and just prosper in life with her commitment to just being who she is and also being confident in that, right? And she said something about money that really hit me, and I thought it was so cool. She said, I want the money not because I just want $1 million. She said, I want the money because if my kids ask for something, I want to always be able to say yes. If I want to make an impact in the world and there's something that I need to give to. She even mentioned her friends, which I love that because being a friend of hers, I'm like, listen, if I'm in need, sis, help me out, right? So
Yeah.
she would say, like, if my friends need anything, I want to be the one to always say, hey sis, I can help you, I can be the one. And I think we all
Yeah.
have a desire to be great at all these different areas of our lives, but if we disassociate that with money, like it has nothing to do with us
Yeah.
getting there, right? It's like we got to be able to connect that bridge and say, well, in order to get that lifestyle, that thing that you desire so much as money may, and this is where I think you clear things up for people, as much as you may think that money may not be that answer or that vessel or that fuel to it, the more for me, and I'll tell y'all a backstory, but the more comfortable you get with how money supports you, I think the better that relationship grows. Because how I felt about money, y'all, before, which I told Emma the story when my grandma snatched that money out my hand when I was little. And I've told y'all that feeling stayed with me to my adult years. And she didn't mean anything bad by it. It wasn't anything bad. She was trying to teach me a lesson. But how I took it, how I felt about it, what it brought to me in that moment and further in my years, I had to deal with that and figure that out. And what it did is it made me feel uncomfortable with money. It made me feel like, I didn't know much about it. I didn't know how it helped me,
Yeah.
supported me. It was like, it was a scary thing. But
Yeah.
just to kind of segue into cycles, okay, and I'll end with this. When I had that fear around money, it kept me in a cycle of spending it all the time. Like I just got to be honest, because if I had a better relationship with money like I do now, I would not, like, I don't want to spend my money. I want to spend your money and your money and your money. I don't want to spend my money. So it gives you opportunity to, kind of have appreciation for it and to spend it wisely when you do, right? And so when I didn't, I would always find ways. And this is why I think, it would be like that paycheck to paycheck attitude. Like, this is why I would run to the safety net of a job, because I would be like, well, I know I'm going to get another paycheck. So with a business, you don't have that luxury. So there was limitations there in my cycle of constantly having this, bad relationship with it. We all have different cycles, y'all. This was mine. This was my story. I'm talking about it because if we don't understand what is happening for us, bless you, Emma. If we don't understand what is happening for us in the new year, which is get better relationships with your yourself, number one,
Yes.
right?
That's
So
the key.
know you have cycles and you know you haven't broken them yet, whether it's a money spending cycle or a self-sabotaging cycle of any kind, you're
Scarcity cycle,
the what cycle?
a scarcity cycle,
The
not having
scarcity
enough.
cycle, or the last thing that we talked about, Emma, which we're going to pretty much end with and really finalize and I think wrap it up with, is the burnout cycle.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we keep burning out. And I remember the first and last time I burned out. I remember burning out and I remember feeling like, what, Emma, can I just say this? I heard people talk about it, right? And I
Yeah.
was like, burnout, like I could do everything. I literally said that. I was like, there's no way that I could burn out because I know my capacity. I know this was right when, like, about 2 years after the pandemic, when all these clients were coming to me. I had so many accounts. I was managing celebrity accounts, y'all. It was like crazy. And I got to the point where I was just thinking that I could do everything for some odd reason. I don't know why I thought that. And one of my clients said to me, he said, Allegra, I think you're going to hit burnout. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, what are you talking about? Right. Because all I was doing was just working and working and working. I didn't really set myself up to say, this is the goal. This is how many people I can hold, that I have the capacity for. Let me raise my prices. Right. I was just like, no, I need to just keep doing and doing and doing. And so it's just very interesting that when he said, Allegra, you're going to burn out, a week later, y'all, I was burnt out. And
Hmm.
what happened was my body burnt, like my body just shut down. It wasn't anything that I could control, it wasn't anything that I could do. My body just shut all the way down. So I literally burnt out a week later and had to fight sleep paralysis. I was literally falling asleep doing work that I was trying to get done for myself and my clients. Hold on one second, y'all. Go ahead, Emma, take over.
Yeah. Well, I have burnt out too, so I really get that as well. And that happens when you're not listening to yourself and when you're just overworking like Allegra's been talking about, or also when you are super, super focused on the result and not focused on, what you're doing, what you're giving. You're focused on what you're getting. That can cause burnout as well because you're trying and trying and trying to get a result. And, then it can lead back to that scarcity cycle of, feeling disappointed and then, also trying really, really hard, working really hard and feeling like you're kind of on a treadmill and not moving forward and feeling really stuck. That was my burnout story, working really hard, trying really hard, burning myself out and then feeling really disappointed in myself. And what that would do is that it would diminish my self-esteem further. So it really became a vicious cycle. And also, when high achievers, anyone can burn out, high achievers, people just starting out, people at all levels. And high achievers also, they can burn themselves out and then they end up questioning, can I do this? Or they burn themselves out so much that it becomes really, really hard for them to make any kind of comeback and to come back into their business and to start working in it again. I have seen people burn out really badly. I don't know what it was like for you, Allegra. How did you deal with your burnout?
So,
For me, I had to just take a step back and kind of do no more anything for a while to
well,
really get
before
my
before
head
I
back.
was rudely interrupted, I was just saying that I was literally picking myself up. Like, my burnout was so bad that I crashed. That's it. I crashed, and I had to take a week off, and I had to cancel everything that I was doing to really recover. And that's really how I handled it. Because honestly, if I would have kept um, working and trying to do it right, like half stuff got done, it just wasn't healthy. And another thing that I wanted to talk about too is that sometimes we internalize our emotions, right? And that also leads to burnout. Like there were a lot of things at that time, and this is, I'm talking to women entrepreneurs because this is what we do. At that time, I was going through a lot emotionally, internally, like I was dealing with a lot. And then I was hiding it in my work. Like I was just like, okay, well, I'll just keep working. I'll just ignore it. I'll just keep working. And it got to the point where, that burnout compiled with stress. And that's what I see a lot too, because we tend to want to keep going and act like it doesn't bother us. But here are the things I'll say at the end, and this is how I deal with it now. Okay, because back when I dealt with it then, it was out of survival mode. Like I crashed and burned. I got admitted. He called it. A week later, I was dead in the bed. Right, like I couldn't get up. But once I recovered, once I got to the point of realizing that there were a lot of things that I wasn't dealing with, right, in myself, because I had to break cycles that were in me for years, y'all. I mean, we're starting a new year, but we're not talking about, some of us are dealing with stuff that we've been dealing with all of our lives, not just 2023. So if I was to be honest about what I was dealing with, I was really resetting and relearning myself. And a lot of those shockers, a lot of those things that was happening at the time, it was really like realizing and breaking the cycles was very hard because there were so many. So taking your time and just making sure that you work on yourself. And that's why I would encourage anyone who feels overwhelmed to connect with Emma, because you need someone to break it down and to say, you know what, take your time with this. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? For me, I deal with people on the side of, when you're ready to like actually take your business to the next level, whether it's take that idea to the next level, take your business to that growth stage, or scale it up. I'm going to give you tools, but see, even I was having difficulty at that time, y'all. I was making money in my business. I was running my business. It was doing great, but I still needed support, because at the end of the day, no one can do it all alone. And so I would just encourage you, because now I keep people around me. I get the support. I pay for the support I need, right? If you need anything from mindset, money blocks to therapy, get what you need. And make sure that like for me, I keep myself in places and spaces that that continue the good habits that I built. So in 2023, I built so many great habits, right? That don't lead me to burnout, that make sure that I don't, because I learned that last lesson. I told you it's the first and last time. I learned that the reason why I was burnt out that time was because I just didn't stop. I kept going.
Yeah.
Now I stop and I check myself. I have, these places where I have checks and balances throughout the year. Then having the right people around me. I didn't have the right people around me because everyone around me was draining me. So there was
Mhm.
no one there that was like, Allegra, like you're tired, go get some rest. Or Allegra, let me help you do this. It was like everyone was, I need this, give me that. You're supposed to do this. And so once I removed those things, and once I got into a place of, okay, how do I keep building on new habits, great habits, those good cycles started to roll. I still deal with, things that have to keep going, but I think that is something we all have to deal with. And so, just to end it on a good note, y'all, there's hope.
Yes,
There's
there
always hope.
100% is, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not a constant upwards trajectory, like I was saying, it goes around in cycles. You have good times when things are a bit easier, and then you have the challenges where you have to work through your stuff or where you need maybe extra support. And, then it would, like, when you start hitting your upper limit, getting to the next level, things can get hard again, and maybe you need support to get to your next plane.
Mhm.
So, I think that's so true. It's a good sign if you're feeling that, if you're hitting those walls, and if you are getting the support to actually walk through them and get to the other side of that. And you are recognizing when you need that help and support rather than just kind of trying to power through. And quite possibly burning out, like Allegra was saying, or like I was talking about as well, are, just kind of going through that scarcity cycle and having it reinforced again
Mhm.
and again by working really, really hard, burning yourself out, it not working, it not connecting for some reason, and then feeling more disappointed, undermining your self-esteem, questioning, is this even for me? And that can really lead to a spiral downwards. And I've seen that with people that I worked with, and also I've been there myself. And once you're in that kind of tailspin, it can be hard to pick yourself up from that because you've got lots of momentum going in the downwards direction. And it takes a lot of energy, particularly if you try to do it on your own, to shift that, because there's a lot of momentum behind that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we're always fighting ourselves too. Like, I mean, let's just
Yeah.
be honest.
Yeah.
I just want to, be truthful, because to me, I'm my own worst enemy sometimes. Like, I get into
Oh,
this
yeah.
momentum where I feel really strong about something, and I will tell myself, y'all, I'll be like, nope, not doing it. And it's funny because you get around stubborn people like that. Like, I have a couple of stubborn people in my life that I know are stubborn, but I'm just like, I know y'all are stubborn, so don't come around me with that. Right. But it's like they literally will they'll tell you, they will say no to something that's good for them before knowing it's good for them, and will
Yeah.
say no to something that's good for them, even knowing it's good for them, and will still continue to say no just to say no. And I think that sometimes we can be like that. We can be our own worst enemies because it has to come from somewhere. If you're telling me that, then you're telling yourself that all the time. Like when people throw a no out to
100%.
me,
Yeah.
right? When people throw a no out to me and I haven't even finished my sentence, I'm like, okay, I can see what kind of lifestyle you live. Because I'm like, you don't even know this is good for you or not. But there are people, and I've learned that in sales, there are people that are just automatic knowers. They're knowers. They just say no, 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 no all the time. And being in that, I think sometimes is also something to think about. Let's go into the new year. Let's have an attitude of what is
Of a
that Jay
yes,
show? The yes man, right? Let's have the
an
yes
attitude
man
of yes. Yeah. But
attitude.
with restraints, you know where to but the thing is, if you don't know how to say no, your yes has no value.
Yeah.
Your yes is meaningless, and a lot of women particularly are stuck in saying yes to everything. I had kind of the
That's
opposite
gonna have
problem,
to
but
be a whole nother
yeah.
live, Emma, because
Yeah.
saying, I had to learn that, and this is stuff, listen, this is not my area. This is Emma's area when she's talking about having this mentality that will keep you open to opportunity, but also, if you're being open to receiving, y'all, one thing I can say for a fact, do not be open to everything. I think I even said it on one of the memes that was on my social media that, everybody doesn't deserve access to you in 2024. Like everything and everyone does not deserve access. So sometimes I feel like there's so many complications there because, you want to be open to receiving, but some of us are so vulnerable that we've opened ourselves up to receive everything as women, right? And then we get like, oh, I don't trust anyone because I've, just been open so much. So how do we get to a place where it's like you can be very discerning of, how you can receive things? Because that value, what you have for yourself, like how you feel about yourself, that is what creates those boundaries. That's what makes you say, you can have access to me, but not you. Or that can have access to me, but not that. And I've seen where we as women tend to say yes a lot because, like you said, Emma, we are definitely people pleasers in a lot of our natural rights. But then we tend to get hurt by that, tend to get hurt by that. That bruises us. And we also have a really hard time saying no because as a people pleaser recovering myself, I have to look at the fact that I thought that I was being nice. I thought I was being nice. And it's funny because even some of the recent conversations I've been having with people in my family, I've been actually turning around. This is why you have to follow through with what we're talking about, y'all. And we'll stay tuned for the next one because we'll be talking more about this. But this is why you have to be very in tune with yourself, because when you know who you are and you get over these cycles that we're talking about, like we're in a new year, so get over whatever the cycles are. You'll start to see that other people around you will start to notice that, and they will start to be healed by that too. And I'll kind of relay that conversation next week. All right. All right. We got to go. Thank y'all for the
Amazing.
time.
Thanks.
Anything
See you
you want to,
guys.
Emma? Okay. Emma's ready to go. Let's get out of here.
Uh, yeah, I think this has been a really good conversation and I look forward to the next one. And yeah, if you're feeling blocked around this stuff, I would say reach out to me. I'm going to pop the links here below, but I would love to connect with you. And don't wait for things to get harder because well, they probably will. The sooner you address these things, you start seeing them, the quicker you can start moving through them and coming out to the other side. And it doesn't take a long time. It's not awfully complicated. You don't need to talk about your trauma for weeks and weeks. It's actually really easy, and there's so much more abundance there on the other side for you.
Yeah. Somebody's in pain right now, Emma. No worries. They've waited the whole year just to make that phone call today. So we'll see you on the other side. Thank y'all for listening.
Bye,
Bye. Have a
guys.
great